Hello, my name is Andrew Basil. I'm a solution consultant with EZLease, and today I'm going to take you through a quick tour of EZLease. EZLease helps organizations achieve sustainable compliance. In less than a day, EZLease helps organizations move off spreadsheets to automate their lease accounting and comply with the latest standards, ASC 842, IFRS 16, and GASB 87. This video will focus on a GASB 87 example. Whether you have 10 leases or hundreds of them, managing this with spreadsheets does not work. Adopting the lease accounting standard is a significant challenge. It is even more difficult to sustain that compliance in the long run. A study by a Big Four accounting firm found that 70% of leases change within the span of a year. There is just too much dynamic data to track, and therefore, tracking leases manually under the lease accounting standards is not sustainable. That's why organizations like yours are moving to EZLease. EZLease is a simple but powerful, fast lease accounting solution that delivers compliance without the risk. It takes just a few minutes to set up EZLease and less than a day to load in and validate your leases, whether you're a lessee or a lessor. Our customers are switching from spreadsheets to EZLease to make it easier to manage leases accurately, keep up with lease changes, and quickly generate the right reports. So let's walk through how easy it is to get started. I'm going to first show you a lessee example. Please take note that all of these capabilities are also available under IFRS and US GAAP and could also be from the lessor's perspective. All of the aforementioned functionality is standard and has been available for years. The first step is configuring the EZLease subledger to match your business. We choose the right standard and then map your GL accounts so the journal entries from EZLease will hold your general ledger account numbers, and moving that data is really easy. And we can also have other user-defined fields to identify your characteristics. So if you want to rename something like variable payment number 1 to something that's more appropriate to yours, you can do that. You can then do things like select your fiscal calendar and your adoption date, and now you're ready to load your leases. Leases can be loaded in bulk or individually and are classified and validated automatically, so you always have complete data. These leases can be tracked at the group and portfolio level, but it is best practice to account for leases where relevant and feasible at the asset level. So not just at the portfolio and group level, but being able to do all accounting at the asset level because that's in the standard. So some of the items EZLease supports include gross and net leases with common area maintenance charges and variable rents for real estate leases as examples. And then in the equipment side, EZLease supports fair market value, bargain purchase, and track leases, as well as end-of-term scenarios such as renewals, buyouts, and returns. So some of these aspects naturally apply only to equipment and real estate or embedded leases. So to load leases into the solution, I have an intentionally kind of very simplified example. This is a spreadsheet that we provide to our customers that you can then enter or paste information into so that it can be loaded into the solution. That also has a mistake in it to demonstrate the validation in a moment. I just entered and pasted in some information regarding these leases in this example. So the start and end date, their IBRs and payments. But take note that this information could have also come from another system, such as a fleet management database. There's also validation while I'm in Excel. So if you notice, if I select a different asset class, I have to select from a pick list. And if I put in anything nonsensical, it's going to warn me that that's illegitimate data. Organizing your leases by asset class is one of the requirements for GASB 87 disclosure. So there's validation not only in the Excel spreadsheet, but also once we load it in. That obviously applies not just to asset class, but to other quantitative and qualitative information. When we import the file into the system, we just pick the file that we want to load in. And when I hit load, it's now continuing to validate the data yet again in that spreadsheet. What this is telling me is that all the leases were successfully added to the system, and I experienced no errors. So there was no names misspelled or anything uncategorized improperly. But there is a warning. So not only is the system validating all this data, it's also letting me know that it's found an incremental borrowing rate that is above 20%. So we probably shouldn't have that, and you set that threshold. So it's going to guide the users to make sure that not only is the data legitimate, but does it also make sense? So the software helps you mitigate errors that spreadsheets can create, and it makes managing leases much easier and more accurate. It's also tracking the various revisions to the leases and anything else so that you can backtrack if necessary, another value that spreadsheets do not inherently hold. The thing is that if I were loading a dozen leases and 4 of them had issues but the others didn't, I could still proceed through, load all the ones that went through, and then go back and deal with the issues. And although most of our customers use the bulk load capability to both import new leases and deal with existing ones, I also want to show you how straightforward it is to add a lease in manually. Let's add a real estate lease for a few floors in an office building. We're going to have it start on, say, December 1 and run it for 60 months as our initial term. Take note, the system will automatically compute an end date based on that term that I just put in. Given this is a piece of real estate, let's put in a long economic life. And then I could just enter a gross rent amount, but let's make this a little bit more interesting and say there's a rent escalation of 4% per year. I would put in what the initial amount was, let's say $10,000, and then put that 4% increase here. So take a look in the background. When I hit process, the system will automatically generate all of the relevant step payments. And now there are just 2 more pieces of information I need to put in when creating a lease. That's the IBR. So let's do a 6% IBR. And I do need to specify the fair value of these floors. But because maybe it's not determinable for me, I could say I don't know what it is and just check that box. And then I would hit Save Lease. It has validated all that information I have put in. So if I had tried to put in something like a negative IBR, it would have warned me. Take note that the system has also automatically classified this lease, computed my right of use asset, and so forth. So the objective here is that I am just an administrator of my leases, and the system is doing all of the accounting, policy application, and other facets of the new standard or standards for me. Data verification and validation is always also constantly present whenever I'm modifying existing data. So let's take a look at a different real estate lease, and say I get a 3-month rent abatement due to unprecedented economic conditions and need to properly reflect that in my accounting. So first I need to unlock this lease, and only then am I allowed to change one of my payments from $1,050 to 0. So this is my 3-month abatement in this time period. And note that when I hit save on this lease, it says, hey, you're making financial changes. Is there anything I want to update? Maybe has my incremental borrowing rate change? Now my fair value of this real estate lease. I'm going to intentionally put something kind of wacky in here and put in a negative incremental borrowing rate and try to hit OK. So again, those guardrails exist saying that, hey, this incremental borrowing rate is less than 1%, or if I had put in a 4,000% incremental borrowing rate, it would have given me a different warning saying, that's not legitimate. So there's this constant validation verification in place, and I just wanted to show you some other inherent controls within EZLease. EZLease is a full lease subledger, and it provides more than a dozen push-button out-of-the-box reports that help you manage your lease portfolio and prove to your auditors that you have not only accuracy but also completeness. This is the GASB 87 disclosure presentation as mandated in the standard. We're just showing what our costs and accumulated depreciation is. It's specified that we group them by type of asset, more specifically
right of use asset. So I've got some examples here for vehicles. You can call them automobiles, or if you just have only real estate, you can break those apart appropriately. And this also provides the detail behind it. So there's additional tabs that'll drill down to those numbers so I can substantiate where they came from, what changed year over year, and the major drivers behind these numbers. This is a journal entry that the system automatically produced for me, so I'm now able to transition over to my general ledger in an automated way. You can configure this as needed, so it's the right level of detail, your account numbers, so you can easily import it or load it into your ledger.
I also want to show you an amortization schedule to illustrate a specifically kind of burdensome, if you will, aspect of attempting to maintain lease accounting in spreadsheets. So imagine having to have a tab for every single lease with an amortization schedule that is as long or longer than this, and triple checking each time. So one customer we're working with, when they attempted to do this in Excel before they adopted, they realized that that's where only a solution like EZLease could possibly handle this in a non-burdensome type of way.
A key capability that's a common requirement among our GASB 87 customers is the ability to properly do sublease and lessor accounting. This is one of EZLease's strengths. All I did was I switched over to the perspective of being a lessor or running a sublease situation rather than a lessee. The thoroughness of our accounting is just as strong on the lessor side as it is on the lessee. The capabilities are still available, but I'm going to have some new concepts here, such as the ability to categorize my leases as being sublease or lessor or sales type leases. The way that it's going to function and the things that it asks for are different. I didn't highlight before the fact that when you're getting to know this system, I realize there are a lot of new fields and visuals here. All you need to do as you're getting to know it is hit F1 on the keyboard and it'll explain to me. If, say, I don't know what the heck an unguaranteed residual is, I can hit F1 on the keyboard and it'll explain that part of the solution to me.
As you may have noticed in the beginning, there were selections for other standards. I know this example was just for GASB 87, but take note that you can run parallel standards, right? We have clients that you do both GASB and US GAAP, or US GAAP and IFRS, all out of the box. And there were other configurations that we didn't really address, such as a 13 period or a 445 calendar, or other types of complexities. So all kinds of customers that are different sizes are using EZLease for simple, fast compliance. As a next step, I would recommend that you try the free trial version of EZLease that's available over our website. Thank you very much for listening.